Woo! Welcome to the Big Bad Marketing Podcast. I'm Janae.
And I'm Brooke, and we're two entrepreneurs jumping headfirst into building a business.
We are marketers and we're content creators at heart. And in this podcast, we're helping small business owners learn how to play big with their marketing efforts, even with a small business budget.
So if you're ready to make big bad moves in your professional life, this podcast is for you. This is episode 8, how to create a social media strategy for your small business. Before we start, I do just have to say I appreciate the woo at the beginning. Janae and I were just discussing Ric Flair and his woo. So if you haven't had the opportunity to see that, probably head to YouTube.
Let's add the link in the
Yeah, we can
show
add the link in
notes.
the show notes. Perfect.
I will also
Makes me
say I'm
so
a big fan
happy.
of Amy Poehler, who does, ooh, ooh.
Oh, I don't know that one. We'll drop a link to that too.
Yeah,
I'm
there
going to
you
need to
go.
see it. Very good. Anywho, social media strategies. So, how many people just jump into social, they get overwhelmed, and they stop? And it is this short-lived thing that is kind of not coherent or strategic in any way. I feel like I see it a lot. I think social can feel super overwhelming if you don't have a plan to do it well. So, if you have not listened to the previous episode, episode 7, we went in depth on all of the social media channels and how to choose the right channel or channels for your business. So go take a listen to that. And then if you are ready to build your strategy, you're in the right spot. So I think a great place to start with this is, why do you need a strategy? So, Janae, why can't you literally post the first thing that comes to your brain and have that be successful?
The primary issue is that it creates confusion. It's very confusing to get to a social media page for a company or a person, and there's this disjointed, incoherent thing there where there's lots of posts and they don't have any tie in together or to the brand identity or style. It's just a big mishmash, right? It's like when you walk into a place and the like a thrift store and the stuff is everywhere and you have to dig through it versus when you go into like a formal retail shop where everything is merchandised and organized and it looks well. This is not an ad, but I think of Target like does a great job of that. Like they have really thought through this process. Who's going to walk in the store? Which way do they want to go? How can we best get them there? What do the things need to look like so that they'll get picked up and looked at? And social media is exactly the same. It's just this digital version of it. Like, what do we want people to see when we get to the page? And how do we want it to look? Does it follow our brand colors, our brand voice, our style? Is there coherency in the messaging and sort of this storytelling that we are always doing when we are in marketing mode? So avoiding confusion is probably the biggest reason to have a social strategy.
Yes.
Um,
And you never want somebody to come to your social media and say, but what do you do? If
oh,
someone is
yes.
asking that question, then it's time for a strategy because it's missing the mark.
Definitely. And you want to create cohesiveness and coherency with every touch point that your customer sees your brand, whether that is in a real store setting or whether that's your website online and then your brand voice in an email and then your social page. So even with Big Bad Marketing, we had some changes in our decision to make our colors different. And then we were like, oh no, our website is different. So we went in and we were like, let's make sure everything has the same colors. Otherwise, you have this, again, sort of disjointed experience. You get to one and there's one color, and then you get somewhere else and it looks totally different. Your logo is different. So cohesiveness. And then it's also helpful when you're creating a strategy to make sure that you are aware in advance what your focus is and what your budget is. So if your social focus is on like we're promoting heavily this one product or service that we offer, but then you get somewhere else and your focus is different, right? You want to make sure it's all tied together and clear. So your budget and your focus is obvious to your potential or existing customers. Um, and then the last caveat is like make sure you need social before you go through this process and develop a strategy.
Yep. And another point is, and this has happened to me before, I have gone to a social media page for a business and I have seen posts from like 2021 and I'll say, are they still in business? Is this restaurant still open? It doesn't look like they are. So the whole starting, stopping can put your potential customers in a place where they might not visit your business digitally or physically if they think that the lack of posting indicates that you maybe no longer exist.
Yes. So what I'm hearing you say is consistency.
Is
And you might
key.
be, yes, and you might be better to do one post a month consistently than five posts in 1 week and then not again for 3 months and then do a random post, right? Like keep it on a regular cadence, even if it's a really thin cadence, just keep it going.
Yes. And that is going to be a huge part of actually creating the good social strategy. So, certainly making it achievable and something that you're going to be able to do consistently. So, the first thing when you start thinking about your social strategy is to set your goals. So, why are you on social? Why did you choose this platform? If you listen to our prior episode, you know exactly why you are choosing your platform. So, let's just pull out an example of a fitness professional and say, I am a brand new personal trainer. I have already built my website, and now I want to drive traffic to my website to get people to look at my blog, to sign up for my programs, to sign up for my email newsletter. So I am going to make the decision to go on Instagram, and that can sort of help me define as I go forward because I know that my goal from Instagram is to drive traffic to my website. So then I can then use referral traffic in Google Analytics as a measure of success of how well things are going on Instagram. So clear goals, incredibly important. If you don't set them first, this whole thing is in vain.
Yes. And we mentioned this in the last episode as well, but really worth repeating. If you don't have a website yet, stop and build a website first. Even if it's just like a straight up basic one pager, have some landing page where your customers or future customers can find you and go directly to you and give you their email address. Those are like the secrets to success in building a business is get people's email address. So have your website first, be able to lead your customers somewhere, then focus on building your social strategy.
Yes. So once you determine those social channels and your goals for them, make sure that your profile is optimized. So, like Janae, you were saying earlier, make sure that your logo is consistent. Make sure that your brand colors are consistent. Make sure that the things that you convey are consistent. So, don't have a different email address and phone number listed on your Instagram account than the ones that are listed on your website, unless truly you're somehow trying to get people to go somewhere else, which I'm not 100% sure why anybody would do that.
Confusion.
Confusion,
Go back to
exactly.
step one.
Yes, yes. But make sure your images are relevant. Make sure everything is up to date. So go through the profile section of whatever app you are on and make sure you have literally completed every possible field and make sure that it all matches.
Yeah, and go back and check any other platform. So if you're on multiple platforms, make sure they all say the same thing. Nothing worse than when I'm like, oh, is this restaurant open? Just like you mentioned. And then I go on Instagram and I see, yes, they are. And then I go on Google Maps and it's like, nope, it's closed. So make sure it's all accurate, up to date. You could do yourself a favor by scheduling a reminder, like on a monthly basis or whatever cadence makes sense for you, to just double check all of those things. Maybe you've had a change in personnel and the number changed, anything. Just set yourself up for success like that and double check your work.
Yes, always, always with the second set of eyes and hire an agency if you need support with that. Big Bad
Woo!
Marketing is ready, willing, and able with the Ric Flair woo to help you make sure that your social is consistent. So, next step, once you figure out where you are going to show up and you've created your profile before you do your first post, figure out who's going to run social, determine who is the responsible party. So if that's you, carve out a certain amount of time every week to dedicate to your social media content calendar, which we'll develop in the next step. But if it's not you, Figure out if it's a part-time employee, if it's a contractor that you're going to hire, if it is an agency that you're going to hire, but know who's responsible and set expectations with that person for the amount of time or the number of posts that they will need to do every week. So until you have clarity on that, don't even worry about figuring out how you're going to create the content. Figure out who owns it first.
And for managing that, there are so many hacks. So if you are a solopreneur or you're just like a one person show running your whole thing and you're like, I don't have time for marketing, hire an agency. But also, there are tools to make it possible for you to condense this down into just a few hours of the month and then use a tool like a scheduler so that it just posts it for you and you don't have to be vigilant on Wednesdays at noon to hit the submit button, but rather you can create it in your own time and get it out there in a regular cadence, just like we talked about, without having the stress and demand of having to actually do it moment by moment.
Yes, and all of these platforms have scheduling functionality built in to allow you to do this. And there are tools. If you are planning to be on multiple social platforms, there is a central tool that you can use. And we'll put some names of tools we like in the show notes for this episode. But work smarter, not harder. If you come up with an idea, turn it into a series or make it easier on yourself to say, Monday, the first Monday of the month from 12 to 3 is when I do social media, and make sure that you can get everything done in that time frame, schedule it all out, and then you don't have to worry about it until next month.
Bing, bang, boom. Big
Done,
bad
done, done.
marketing.
Yeah, so Janae, deciding what and when to post. Talk me through the social media content calendar.
Ooh, okay. So big big bright letters here is make a calendar, right? And this doesn't have to be, I think we've talked about this before, but this doesn't have to be this like really detailed, specific, itemized every post and what it's going to say and the captions and the pictures. This should be a high level understanding on a monthly or even yearly basis of what you're going to talk about, what are the things you want to promote. And then after you have that high level calendar, it's up to you how you want to do it. You can definitely go through and like word by word write out the captions in the posts per month or per week, whatever makes sense for you. Or you can wait till it gets there and then decide, okay, this week we've already established this is the week where we're promoting our new product, product X, and these are the features we want to discuss. And then you write out your caption, add your pictures, and set it all up like that. If you are interested in creating a calendar for yourself, you can also visit our website and download our free annual content calendar to help you understand your annual marketing plan for your business. And then you'll niche down from there to create a social strategy calendar.
Yes, I'm
Um,
I'm also picturing, sorry to interrupt, but this collaborative place where if you are the ideas person, so say you're the business owner and you go to the calendar and you say, we want to promote X product in March, we really want to take advantage of swimsuit season in June, and these are the things that we want to think about from a high level. And then you hand that off to someone who is maybe a contractor or an agency and say, okay, now I just need help on the execution side of this. So I see the content calendar as really being that collaborative effort between one or more parties where you can organize everything, but don't feel like you have to be the one that is completing the whole thing by yourself.
yes. And the place where that calendar can include themes and direction. And then the execution person or persons or agency can nail out the details and actually write out the sentences and actually identify the images to be used, where you're able to still contribute from the creative and the high level prompts and strategic direction, and then hand it off to someone else to manage the nuts and bolts of it. Absolutely agree. So you'll also want to be flexible here, right? You're mapping out these themes, these ideas for your calendar, but some of those are going to change. And maybe a trend happens and you decide you want to pivot and focus on the trend. So be cool with that because I think the nature of social media is like it's happening all the time and it's moving. And the more you can keep up with what's happening now, the more relevant you will stay in the social sphere. It's also important to keep your content in a unique and interesting variety pack versus just every post is exactly the same, like a static image, and it always follows the exact same graphic design pattern or always shows exactly the same type of stock image. You really want to keep it varied. So maybe some posts are graphic images and then some are carousels, so sliding through multiple photos. Others are going to be videos or reels. You can add to your stories depending on the platform. So that's more of a short term. It's not going to stay on your page, but it still gives people the chance to interact with your brand. And then more and more popular is becoming UGC, so user generated content. That's going to be testimonials, reviews. That might even look like influencer content. But it's important to have like a really nice mix of these things to keep it interesting and engaging for your audience.
Yeah, and on that note, just be sure with anything like user-generated content or even videos and reels that you schedule them out far enough that you have time to produce them. So certain things like the static imagery with the caption might be far easier and less time and labor intensive to produce. But if you are planning to do a reel and you need to visit multiple locations, or you want a piece of user generated content, but you're not sure if they can deliver it to you in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, make sure that you just put it far enough out in your calendar to give yourself time and then fill in before that with some of those less time intensive activities.
Yes, there's certainly a time and a place for stock images. Let's say also having a storehouse or an image library or media library for your company. So there's a difference between a stock image of, let's say, a credit card for a credit card company, and then having an image library of your credit card being used in action. So it's no longer a stock image, it's specific to your brand, but then you can go in there, the day of the post or a few weeks before and pull that image. But it just means you don't have to wait till the last minute to be like, oh, no, we need to snap a picture.
Yes, and platforms like Canva and others integrate that functionality and they can make it really easy to be able to do something like grabbing stock imagery.
Mm-hmm. And then what also comes to mind here is like certain businesses are going to be promoting events, and be mindful as you're prepping the social and the content for those that you have the right footage or images to promote those things. So are you planning on posting it after the event has occurred? And that way you can get a bunch of images of it and then share them. Or if you're planning on enticing people to come, making sure you have the right content to be engaging and intrigue people to come.
Yes, definitely.
And what do you think about engaging with your audience on social as part of a social strategy, bro?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of businesses who sort of view social through this lens of kind of a mouthpiece, right? Like I'm telling you what I'm doing, and now I'm still telling you what I'm doing, and now I'm helping you learn how to do something, but also telling you what I'm doing. And that's great, but you have to remember that social media is also about engagement. So you have people who are commenting on your posts, sharing your posts, potentially posting things on their own page. There might be other local businesses that you want to support by going to their page and liking some things or commenting. So don't forget about the importance of taking time to invest in your audience and making them feel seen by your brand, because that can really go a long way. So I think as someone who interacts on social and posts a comment but doesn't ever expect a response, there is sort of this magic that happens when you do respond, especially as you get to be a little bit bigger of a brand with a little bit larger of an audience. That's going to be really meaningful to someone if you go like their post and say, "Hey, thanks so much for sharing how much you love this blouse. It's one of our top sellers." That's all that it takes is just a few seconds. So if you can carve out time during your week as part of your social strategy, and you can even throw it in your calendar and say, Friday afternoons between 1 and 2, community engagement time. I'm going to go through, look for opportunities to make that personal connection with our audience, because that really is something that can set you apart from brands that are simply using that mouthpiece and drilling it in, but not actually ever making that personal touch.
Yes, and it's also such a great way to showcase brand personality because I'm thinking of like a big brand that is nationally known and they occasionally are responding to comments, right? And specifically on Instagram, I know that these days you can make sure specific comments stay to the top so that other viewers can see specific comments. So then a big brand responds to someone's question and the answer is there for everyone to see, but it's also depending on the brand voice, of course, like maybe playful or funny. And it helps to build this sense of community engages with this brand and this brand responds in kind, in a funny way, in an engaging way. And then everyone can see that. And it just only fosters that process of relating to a brand and feeling like you're familiar with it, like you resonate with it, like you like it, and you want to be an active participant in that community, in that brand.
Yes, and feeling like there's a person behind the brand and the brand isn't just this logo without a heart, but that there really are good, kind, funny people behind the brand. It just makes you want to buy from them more.
Yes. I think of actually some specific cases where I've seen fast food restaurants on different platforms commenting back and forth to each other, and even that creates this really playful repartee for the brands, and it's promotion for both of them. Like there may be competing brands in real life, but on social it creates this dynamic where like, hey, we're all in this together and let's interact and have fun. Really like
Yes,
that.
definitely. And that's what it was meant to be, right? Social media.
Yes,
Yes,
social.
yes, lest we not forget, it used to just be a place for people to connect before it got so, I'm sure that advertising was always at the heart of what, Facebook was doing when they created the platform back in the day. But, before this became an avenue to sell people's information, it really was just about sharing a photo with Granny. So it's like at the heart of it, let's get back to the roots of social media, you know?
MySpace.
MySpace. Who are
We
your
didn't even
top eight
mention that.
friends? I don't even have eight friends anymore.
Oh.
No.
Okay, so you're on social, you're interacting with people, you have a regular posting schedule, you have a clear point person in charge of it. How do you know that you're doing a good job? How are you measuring your success?
Yes. So that starts with going back to your goals. And keep in mind that when you initially set your goals, they might not be good goals. And you might realize as you get into executing your social media strategy that your original goal is no longer valid or you want to pivot to a different one. So maybe, for example, you thought that you would be on Instagram selling a physical product and you wanted people to shop through Instagram. When the reality is you're actually getting a lot of website traffic to your products and a lot of, new subscribers to your list and so you're not converting them in the way you thought they would, but
Mm.
the platform itself is still providing value for your business. So it's okay to reassess those goals, but figure out if you're going to be looking at monthly reports, quarterly reports. I probably would do monthly at a minimum just so you can start to see trends over time. I don't like to review metrics on a daily or weekly basis because of how much they can fluctuate. So I would say month over month, and then choose the metrics that you're going to assess. So if you're going to look at the referral traffic from Google Analytics, that's a great metric. Track it month over month. If you're going to look at conversions, make sure that you have the right tracking tags set up on your website to appropriately track those purchases and conversions. Or if it's new email newsletter signups, and a lot of this analytics type of stuff is going to need to be set up separately. So don't assume when you start posting on social that you have all the tracking in place that you need. That might be something where you need a developer or an agency to come through and sort of partner with you and make sure that the success metrics you're measuring, you can measure. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, if the data is not available to you, it's not
Right.
available.
Right.
Okay, so question here is what metrics do you think are not useful but tend to be coveted metrics? And or are some metrics just vanity metrics that really aren't useful for reaching business goals? And or maybe this is a goals question of like what should goals be for this versus what shouldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, I am of the opinion that the ultimate vanity metric is followers. And it's now been proven time and again that smaller, more engaged audiences are far more powerful when it comes to sales and conversions than just sheer numbers audiences. So local, hyper local influencers tend to perform a lot better. And they do better with brand deals than some of the big names do because whether it's bots or just people that are following them because they're pretty, it's like
But they're
you
never going to
gotta,
buy.
right, exactly, but they're never actually gonna make a purchase. So a great example of this is a friend of ours actually who owns a bookstore, and they do an event every year in their community at the bookstore, and they hire a local influencer from the area to promote it. And that results in a ton of ticket sales to the event because that is a local trusted influencer. And they only have a couple thousand followers, but they're all people that live and work in that community, and they're highly engaged with the type of content uh, that they put out. So that's just one example of, followers maybe not being the best measure of success and really trying to focus more on something that is more akin to conversions or the ultimate goal that you set out. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I was going to say like they should really be tied into your social goals should be tied into your overarching business goals. And if it's just like, I think we talked about this in our goal setting episode and our resolution episode, like if it's just like get more followers, like why? For to what end? Like get more likes, get more engagement. Like those are fine things to happen, but if that's the end goal, you're kind of missing the part where it's like our business functions when we make more revenue. So how
Yes.
can we make sure that our social goals are aligned with, if that's your goal, like having 10% increase in revenue quarter over quarter? So it's understanding which steps on social are going to contribute to larger scale goals for your business.
Yes. And when you are measuring success, I do think looking at engagement of your posts is something that you should consider. Like make data-driven decisions, right? If you do a particular type of post and say it's a reel and it performs exceptionally well and you are, 10 to 20 times the engagement you get on any other type of post, maybe explore doing a couple more reels and see if that is something that your audience is really enjoying. And so, it's not just about that end conversion, but it is a bit about, are people looking at this? If you get a post that gets shared a lot, maybe try another similar post in a couple weeks and see if you get the same thing. Because at the end of the day, it is a bit like a game where you are trying to figure out, how can I get people to look at the post that I'm putting out and then ultimately use that to serve my broader business goals.
Sure. Which I think leads us to the final step in this process, which is post. Do the posting. Like now that you've done this process of having a strategy, of figuring out which channels to be on, hopefully understanding your audience a little more, now is the time to put the things out there because you'll reassess as you go. You'll update your goals, you'll update your approach. But if you don't just start putting things out there, you're not going to have any data to be driven from.
Yes. And just start posting consistently. So, like we talked about at the beginning, pick a cadence that makes sense for you. If you can feasibly post every day and you want to do that and you're willing to commit to that for the long term, okay, go ahead with that. But if you can only do a monthly post to start, go with that. That's okay. If you can do weekly, I have a client right now where we're posting every single week on Wednesdays, and that's fine. And it's serving the purposes that we want it to, but we cannot commit to doing any more than that right now. A-okay.
Right.
So
And in
make it
that
make
way,
sense.
consistency makes sense. And that it is really in that case, I think about fostering building the relationship and nurturing the relationship and showing up with your audience. And it's not about let's turn this person into a conversion. And as long as you can keep those things separate, I think that you set yourself up well and you continue moving towards success with social.
Yes. And if you come across an agency or a person who is trying to guarantee that you will get conversions from social media, that's a big red flag. Nobody can guarantee. It's very similar to Google search. Like we're gonna put things in place to increase the likelihood of these things happening, but nobody can actually ever guarantee that what you do on your social media platform is going to 100% lead to the business outcomes you want. So just be wary. Keep in mind that social often is an educational and community play. And yes, you're probably going to need to invest some dollars in it. And the small business owner brain goes, okay, but what's the ROI? And I totally understand that, but that might not be something that you can calculate, especially in the early days until you have a bit more data to work with.
Certainly. Certainly. Okay. And while you're taking in more information, what are some other considerations here for social strategies?
Yeah, so we touched a little bit on influencer relationships, and really, once you grow enough of an audience, consider working with those types of micro influencers. I know we talked a lot about user generated content, and if you're getting a lot of good organic social traffic to your brand from people who just love you and what you do, then don't even worry about the influencer partnerships or looking at any kind of paid advertising or anything like that. Targeted ads can be effective on these platforms, but building your organic presence can often be a better use of your time and energy, and then explore paid advertising down the line.
I think that that's a blanket statement that's true for so many things, which is focus on your organic, especially if you are playing with a small business budget, right? Focus on the organic because it's going to help you keep your costs low and stay closer to within your budget. And as that develops, I think you'll be surprised to find that the traction for everything else starts building. And it's not only about paid ads. And we come from a world where it is a lot about paid ads. And I'm not disputing that those work or that they are helpful or contribute to reaching goals and financial success and la la la. But if you're not in a budget place for that right now, don't worry about it. Focus on building the momentum of your organic page. I find it surprising sometimes to see local businesses how well they're doing on social media just by being creative, by being consistent, and by showing up. No ad required.
Yes. So organic first, consider paid later. I have seen small businesses jump directly into paid, thinking I'll do paid while I get my organic up and running. And then the organic kind of falters, and then they just end up leaning wholly into paid, which, unless your paid is really tweaked appropriately and refined, it can turn into a money pit. So I would probably stay away from that until you have an experienced team of people to help you do it well.
Yes. Okay. So, hot question here is what do you think about repurposing content and duplicating content?
Yeah, so a former boss came to me with this idea of COPE, COPE, which stands for Create Once, Publish Everywhere. And I love that idea, especially when, like us, you're in the realm of long form content. So, say you make a blog post about the 10 hottest roof colors for spring in Charleston. You spent a lot of time and energy collecting the imagery and crafting that blog post. So, why not amplify that on other platforms? So repurpose it, but don't duplicate, I think is the overarching message here. So you can then turn that into a Facebook post that very succinctly shows here, these are the top 10 colors, and throw that into a visual for that platform. Maybe on Instagram, you could do more video style that actually shows the different types of roofs and go between them. So create once, publish everywhere can be a good approach, especially if you do have that long form content to lean on. But I think, yes, upcycle it, recycle it, but don't duplicate it. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I was going to say cope, don't copy.
I like that.
Yes. Yes,
Very
yes.
good.
Okay, and here's another one is What about when people, if or when you have bad reviews or people are leaving negative comments or just general bad press on your social? Do you have thoughts on
Ooh.
that?
I'd love to hear what you think first.
So I don't think there's a blanket statement for that. And I also don't think it's good to just have a canned response, which I've seen a lot, which is like,
Ooh, I see that all
sorry
the
for
time.
your trouble. But I do think it's important to be prepared and have sort of guidelines and a plan in place. Like have a protocol of how you respond to those things and also be timely. So don't just leave it there without doing anything. Maybe you also don't want to jump in like 2 seconds later when you're all fueled and angry, like, how could they say that about me? I showed up on time and blah, blah, blah. Don't be like in a rebuttal mode. But there's a way to promptly reply and also professionally reply. That would be my guidance, because I think at the end of the day, there's like a no press is bad press. And while there's a lot of sticky stuff around that saying, I think it's true that there's a way to pivot the comments and make it into something either neutral or actually positive.
Totally agree with everything you mentioned and addressing it promptly and not using a canned response. Oh my gosh, those make you crazy. And so people only leave reviews if they're really happy or they're really sad. That's why you don't see a lot of 3, 4, and 2-star reviews. You get ones and you get fives because you got happy customers or people are very frustrated with you. So when you get those ones and those really frustrated customers, you do kind of have to handle them with kid gloves. Understand, practice empathy, understand where they're coming from, what drove them to do that review, and then do something about it. If you have the capacity to fix it by sending a new product or offering them a discount on their next visit to your restaurant, like do those things, go above and beyond because you have the opportunity to take a terrible experience and turn it into something really memorable in a positive way. So,
Yes.
yes,
Turn it into something big, big and bad.
yes, absolutely. So, that's the nuts and bolts of the social strategy. We'll have a blog post on this as well, which goes into more detail. But ultimately, what we want to say to you is you need a social strategy or just don't do social.
Yes.